So let's get going. Pandemic, COVID-19 episode mindset. Rich,
Ouch.
how are you?
Great. I've never been better.
I don't need to introduce you. I think we can have subtitles introducing you.
Nice.
So obviously we're recording this during the COVID-19 pandemic, and very excited, not about pandemic, but excited to talk about solution and ideas during the most challenging times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that the best and the strongest are well defined and identified during downturns, and that's the idea behind this mindset episode, right? I mean, how to pick your path,
Right.
and assuming you pick the path of growth as opposed to path of, caving, hiding, slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you pick the path of growth, I would love to talk about a couple of things. So let's start with, I guess, the changes that you have experienced or you've implemented internally as a sales lead. I mean, what have you seen? What have you done recently?
Well, I think the biggest difference is more of, I would say, a loss of hands-on approach where we'd have our entire team available to talk about our struggles, talk about our prospects, talk about how we're going to get better, and that doesn't exist. Okay, by current the way things are, we're forced to send them all home. They have to work on a remote level instead of just being right next door. So that in and of itself creates its own struggles from a management standpoint. Luckily, we have overcome a lot of those struggles very quickly, and I think we're doing it the right way, and we're actually able to recognize positives from the whole COVID-19 versus just isolating what we lack. And it's business as usual. You can't stop the ship, right? You've got to continue to go in the right path to reach our goals, and that's what we do on a daily basis.
So what do you say to a top? And obviously you're working with realtors, with
Mm-hmm.
teams, brokers, licensed real estate professionals, and that's a tough business, right? I mean, for the most part, real estate agents are on the road and are outside to begin with. But I mean, never mind that fact. I mean, at this point now, you can do showings. You can obviously, meet with people. You can do buyer tours for the most part. I mean, right? I mean, so everything's pretty much shut down. So how do you explain that person that you work with on a regular basis? How do you explain that person, how to execute business as usual model?
Well, it's all mindset. I mean, frankly, real estate, I wake up every morning happy that we're in this industry because so many right now are in such a bad position. There are industries that can't work at all, where real estate, we have not really missed a step. Granted, they have their own individual, problems to overcome, contractual problems, showing problems, but the industry continues to move forward. And I think it's that mindset. I wake up and I watch the news, and I go home and I watch the news, and if you buy into everything you hear, it can affect you outside of what your actual day-to-day is. And I think the real estate industry and the agents I talk to, the first thing I want to do is say, look, let's get on our knees and thank the Lord that this is our industry. We're not on a cruise ship. We're not doing a hotel. We're not in the service industry that's completely shut down. Sure, we have obstacles to face, but our business can continue to grow. And from my standpoint, it does just that. We're just stuck doing it a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. What would be your advice to the average Joe, right, that is sitting out there now watching this, or sitting out at home, been there for a month plus,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing if this is going to be the new norm for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, you don't know, right? Sitting there and saying, okay, I need to come up with a business plan now.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice? How do they run their business?
And not watch the news. Actually, you're forced to somewhat, but they keep moving the goalpost in this pandemic. We never know from one second to the next. I actually heard somebody on the news the other day that said this thing could go for 18 months. And I just laugh at that. It's a scare tactic. If you recognize that everybody has their own agendas, they all have their own thoughts of what this means to them. I like to take what I believe to be the best scenario, take what can be the worst scenario, and kind of cut the difference and have an idea with how long I'll probably be doing this. Me personally, I expect a couple more weeks where I'm hearing, some are saying we're going to open up in a couple of weeks, some are saying it may be 6 weeks. It's not going to be 18 months. The American public will not allow this to be locked down for that long. So that's my thinking with that. It's just a mindset. Get yourself in a position to take what you have to work with today and use that to your strengths. It's ironic. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about an industry that is top loaded success-wise. The majority of the business is done by the upper echelon of real estate agents. Okay. When I'm speaking to agents during the day, I can spot immediately the ones that say, I'm folding up my tent. I can't do anything. It's the poor me attitude. What can I do? I look at that as, an advantage for me and my better agents. That's one less of this most competitive industry that is opening up the door for those that are good at what they do to have more. And I think that's the attitude that we need to portray. Stay on your business. This isn't going to last forever. I don't think it's going to last as long as they tell us it's actually going to last. So be prepared for when everything opens up to be able to have your business on track to take advantage of, kind of what we've been set back with. That's the best advice I can give in talking to agents and hearing their struggles. And I get it. It's hard. I mean, how are you going to show a house wearing a face mask? How are you going to talk to somebody? An agent I spoke to this morning, she said, but we can't even understand each other. We're wearing masks and we're wearing this and gloves, and we're not supposed to wear gloves. And it's hard to do our business. Two things are never going to change. People are never going to stop wanting to sell their homes and to move. And the right real estate agents are always going to be there to help them. So as long as we work with those two, anything else outside of that, we will overcome and we'll be able to adjust and still be successful. It's all mindset, 100% mindset.
So let's talk about that. Let's jump into something that I like to do. Mindset. So in the spirit of a mindset, let's talk about positives. Okay. What do you think is the positive aspect of the pandemic that, the tools, what did it enable us to do better now because of the new norm?
Well, I think one positive I just mentioned, those that are incapable of doing this job in this industry will phase out because they won't be able to compete.
Right.
So now you have the real players that are out there doing what they do best, garnishing that business, helping home buyers, home sellers. And so their book of business will increase, provided they stay focused on the ultimate prize, which is increasing their funnel, helping their client base, increasing that client base. And so just the competitive nature of the industry, I think, will back off. In our business, where we're pushing buyers and sellers and prospects to professional real estate agents to have that conversation of their goals, there are some that don't want to have that conversation. Well, you know what? They may not want to have that conversation long before the pandemic. Perhaps they weren't prepared. They were the lower echelon that you probably wouldn't want to be talking to anyway.
Right.
You remove some of the static, and now you can get down to what the real business is. I think we're forced to do this. Business in general, even outside of real estate, will probably have changes that'll last for a long time. Something as simple as shaking a prospect's hand, may be uncomfortable now. It may go to the elbow bump or the tap on the shoulder instead of a handshake to prevent spreading, germs that probably existed long before this pandemic. We just never recognized like we do now. We'll take precautions to be able to do business, and who knows, maybe that's a good thing. I always like to shake a hand. but there may be a different style of business.
So I'll put a spin on it, because I think, well, not spin, it's not the right way to say it, but I think I'll zoom into what I meant. I think during these times, number one is you learn to appreciate a little bit more the kind of like the family, because you're more in a family environment. Number two, you finally consume all of the movies available on TV. So when you're done with the pandemic, you're probably going to want to just work and not watch movies, right? Third, I think that we stress test the ability and the use of technology. Now you're forced to use technology. So now maybe for the first time, you can shake hands. And even if you're a people person, now you have to use technology to, let's say, for example, use an open house interface to promote it on social media and to generate leads remotely and virtually, right? So you are forced to use tools that have been built there that maybe before you didn't have the time or the desire to do that. Now you're doing it. And I think that ultimately, kind of like what you said, the strong get stronger and build a funnel, because everybody is hungry for the interaction. The consumers still need to consume, and the producers still need to produce. And I think that now the top producers are actually getting a major head start now, and obviously to the point where the economy reopens, that they'll be in the lead. So
it's like a training. It's like a training period. We're
Absolutely.
Training for the marathon. The gun is yet to go off, but when it does, we're in a position where we're well equipped to do what it is that we're looking to accomplish. Nobody's crazy enough to believe that and I agree with the technology. Open house interface it's a great tool. At the end of the day, somebody's not going to place an offer on a home. We get that they haven't seen outside of just pictures, right? They're going to want to enter that home. They're going to want to see. They're going to want that feel. But it is something to maintain that relationship, to continue to do our day-to-day business in a climate where we're not able to walk into the home. We're not able to see it live. And I know a lot of agents are using that type of technology, to be able to bridge that gap between, so when the gun goes off, you show the home and you're ready to go. The emotion is there, and we're fired up.
No, I'll give you a quick example. Zillow has phenomenal 3D tools, for example, for 3D tours, right? And before, I don't know what the numbers were, but people use it. Let's say it was X. They definitely saw an uptick when now and during the pandemic, you're forced to use those tools. So the interesting thing is, I think that once the economy reopens, now you have a tranche of agents that actually use those tools during the training phase, which is the pandemic phase. And now they maximize that to better serve the consumers, better serve the clients in a much more efficient way, in a quicker way when it comes to tours, when it comes to obviously open house interfaces, when it comes to, that's kind of like the positive side I see of this situation. But let's flip this a little bit. What would be the worst thing for a typical producer or salesperson? What would be the worst thing that person can do during this time?
Stop. Get caught up in the news. Get caught up in the atmosphere, and get that stinking thinking. Where what am I going to do today? The poor me thought. Right, you have to continue to forge forward, okay? And I think the producers already know this. That's by definition why they're producers. They're not the ones we worry about in this time. It's those that are a tick below that are trying to make their mark, that it's easy to make excuses for why not to be successful. And I'm just a believer that, hey, if it's not the pandemic to that person, it could easily be something else. So just stay focused on what you're looking to accomplish. Make sure that all of your arrows are aligned correctly, and that this too shall pass. That's kind of where we're at right now. And I believe quicker than some would possibly believe.
Outside of the sales environment and producers, where do you predict the real estate going long term?
Oh, I'm invested. People are, again, as we started, we're in an industry that's never going to, this is not the 2008 failure, right? This is a different situation. We may have another one of those. It's possible. But real estate overall, I believe we will, when the bureaucrats and the mortgage rates and all of that stands out of the way, real estate will always continue to thrive. So I don't see us taking steps backwards at all. I think the industry will continue to not only exist, but to thrive. I think, investors are always going to invest in real estate. People are always, just your average homeowner is going to want to upside, you're not going to lose your empty nesters. People are going to have work relocations. The industry by definition is one that will always exist, I believe, and be stable. And this is merely a little speed bump, I believe, what we're facing currently in our climate.
Makes sense. I agree. What kind of, more specific, do you have any specific tools or ideas that helped you or maybe your teams to be successful during this tough time? And I mean technical tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's presentation tools, do you have any?
Well, we use them on a daily basis. It's obviously we have to use our remote tools, working with our computer systems and the internet and our presentations that way. We have to work communications amongst the team itself and our prospects and our clients. So yeah, the technology, without it, we'd be stuck, right? We're lucky in that we use that a lot on a daily basis regardless.
Right.
But now, it's funny, I just sent home my 2 in-house lead managers and I did that because I wanted to see how are we going to do with them, outside of our normal management style. And it's ironic, we're right where we should be because the technology was in place. There's still going to be internet, there's still going to be phone. We can still do Zoom meetings, we can still meet with our prospects, show our product, and from there it all comes down to mindset. The tools are always going to be there.
So I'll give you kind of like my take on it, right? And this is not a commercial break, so in the spirit of full disclaimer, right, and in full disclosure, we did not get paid to say any of that, and I think that it's really important for people to understand that. So you're in this situation and you want to grow. You're not going to stop, and you're saying, okay, what do I need to do in order to grow my business? So for example, we use ClearSlide, right? Mm-hmm. So ClearSlide is a great platform to do an interactive presentation, but also allow the user to actually manage the presentation. So it's not just a conferencing or video conferencing, but it's rather two-way demo presentation that allows you to pretty much do everything in a shared environment on a computer monitor, right? You have DocuSign to sign everything. You have Dropbox to put all the files and share and collaborate with your clients if you need to share files, right? Obviously Google Docs, Google Excels go without saying. Mm-hmm. You have a software such as Monday.com or TaskPigeon that you can actually manage all of your tasks from home, so you don't really need to worry about posted notes or whatnot. And obviously, ultimately, you have all of your, industry-specific software company and documentation. When it comes to showing, you have obviously the open house interface that you can hold a virtual open house and you can post it on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and have people start to complete the forms in order to become show their interest in your open house. You have the Zillow products for 3D tours that you can actually email. You can actually share with your share link with your consumers, right, your prospective buyers. So pretty much everything that you can do remotely these days. Mm-hmm. We just didn't really use them enough, and now it's the time to use them.
Well, I think it's fair. I think a lot of times we fear the unknown, and you wonder when you have a system that you see is working, we're not eager always to step into different ways of running the business. And I know that remotely, from my standpoint, everything's there. We do have that ability to do, but there's still the fear of what can happen when it's not right there in front of you. Luckily, any of those that would surface, we were able to see right away. I also think it creates an attitude amongst our own personnel. and our own sales team and our own management team that we're able to hone in on pretty much everything in the business. People are doing jobs that they may not have to do on a day-to-day basis if they're in a corporate setting, where when they're remote, they have to find other ways. They're doing other parts of the business because they're alone in their home or their room, and they're having to learn more processes a lot of times than what they would do if they were in the office. They can't just call a manager and say, fix this for me.
Right.
They have to handle their business. So there's that I think will, to answer your question, when things go back to normal, that will increase strength. And everybody, our entire team, under my management, will, I believe, be stronger for this long term than we probably would have ever expected.
Right. It's funny. It reminds me of a funny story. I know my cheesy stories from naval warfare training. We're both military. Thank you for your service, as always. But in our SEALs training, I remember that for a year and a half, we didn't know what's going to happen next. We didn't know what's next 5 minutes, next 10 minutes, let alone, next the day or so. And I'm not talking about hell weeks. I'm just talking about a normal week, right? And I remember that post-graduation, I explained to us that the entire concept of that training was just to develop, just to create, to allow you to be comfortable with uncertainty. Because most of your operations in your business is going to revolve around uncertainty. You don't get 100% of the answers. Probably not even 10% of the answers, right? I mean, a little bit of intelligence, and that's the extent of it. You need to be comfortable with uncertainty, but you know what you need to do. You have your goals, and you just need to go and complete your mission, which is the same thing here. I mean, the economy will reopen. Buyers are buyers, sellers are sellers, consumers are consumers. The pros are the pros. Whatever you do and whatever generate revenue for your business, it's still there. It didn't change, right? It's just a function of how you do things. And it's pretty exciting to see the one that thrive. It's pretty exciting to see the one that grow and push. And I think that you hit it very well. You said that the strong will thrive. The one that are really in it for the right reason will actually grow faster in tough economies. So, what words of wisdom do you have to leave our listeners with in terms of ways to help them if they're struggling now? More of kind of like mindset words, if you will.
Well, first off, everybody's not struggling, okay? Especially in this industry. When you wake up in the morning, you want to get out of that poor me attitude. You want to take the tools that you have available and say, today is going to be the best day for me that I can make it. Granted, I can't go out and I can't do a showing. I can't do door knocking. I can't do cold calling because this pandemic has put us in a position. I actually talked to an agent, their broker won't let them send mailers because they fear that those receiving them, could put a bad light upon them. So, but you can take the ability to use FaceTime, the ability to use the internet. Social media is huge. Take the tools that you have and design a plan every day that is going to help you to get to that finish line for that day. And always, God's sake, remember, this is not going to be forever. I mentioned earlier, it's okay to watch the news, but nowadays so much of it is political and everybody has their own ideas what's going to happen. Listen to the professionals, and this is going to change. And as long as you have that hope that you see the end of the rainbow, and you recognize how valuable it is to have your business in a position, as we mentioned the marathon, when that gun goes off, that's the kind of mindset that will not only get you through this situation, but it'll make you way more successful when it all ends. So every day, don't buy into the Netflix. Keep your same work ethic that you would keep. It's just in another place. If you're working in a brokerage office or an office, you don't want to go home and flip on Netflix if that's not what you would do at work. Spend your work time doing your work. Don't get caught up in the lazy cycle, that recognizing those that are out there that are unable to work, and you kind of start to catch that type of a disease from them. Do your job and look for ways to build your pipeline. It makes time go faster, keeps your sanity. I know you mentioned, yeah, we're home. Part of this is you get to know your family. Hey, some of the bad part of this is you get to know your family, right? You're locked together, and separate that day by handling your business. And I think as long as we all do that, like I said when we started, every day I wake up thankful that we are in this industry and recognizing that there are those in a much worse position than what we are. Continue to do what we do. Work with your vendors to where I think a great example, a lot of the companies that you mentioned, I mean, the vendors that are out there can make this time easier for you. If they're giving you prospects to reach out and talk to, you don't have to knock on their door, pick up the phone. Mm-hmm. And some of it's getting back to basics, mm-hmm. some of it's using the technology, but keep the mindset of a professional, not a poor me type mindset and what's going to happen next. Stay positive. That's what I do. Anyone that knows me, that's what releases stress. And you're right, we don't know the exact day, but that day is coming that everything's going to change. And when it does, we're all going to be stronger for it. I believe it, 100%.
Rich, as always, pleasure. Thank you for your time.
It was fun.